more professionals are getting ready to embrace the issue and begin to make that change that we're needed to make. And to help you get that way, I present to some and introduce to the rest of you the illustrious Vice President of the National Education Association, Miss Becky Pringle.
Good afternoon, ESP. Good afternoon to the largest labor union in this country, the National Education Association. Oh, it's always so inspiring to be in the company of accomplished educators. Our education support professionals distinguish themselves each and every day that you interact and you care for and you nurture and you teach our children. And so on behalf of 3 million of your closest friends, I just want to say thank you. And thank you to my colleagues, Kevin and George, for giving you a sense of what we're going to be doing here for just a brief time this afternoon. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one affects us all. The RA action that Kevin just showed that our delegates took reflect an understanding of our linked destinies that Dr. King describes. So while you may believe that you or your students are not directly affected by the devastating effects of institutional racism, in reality, it affects us all. And each one of us must ask ourselves this fundamental question: what does it do to me as a moral person to be part of a system where far too many of our students suffer injustices, are denied rights and opportunities because of race? I was really glad that Kevin started by making clear, very, very clear for you what this work is about and what our conversation will be about. Every time we have an engagement, we learn more. And when you know more, then you have to do better. So last week at the end of the summit, I had one of our members come up to me and express her dismay about feeling as though she was being blamed for the statistics of the disproportionate discipline that I talked about and that are in our schools, and the overrepresentation in our criminal justice system, and the underrepresentation of ethnic minorities in AP classes, and the disturbingly low number of students of color attending or completing college. She said to me, "Becky, I'm not a racist. I didn't cause these children to be caught in this web of bias. I'm not to blame for their unequal opportunities and uneven outcomes. I'm a good person. I'm a good educator. My response to her was, whether or not you see those statistics playing out in your classroom or your work site or your school doesn't mean that as an educator, you shouldn't be thinking deeply about why they exist, about their causes, about the role that you can and must play to make a difference. Even if you live or you work in a community or school where there are few or no ethnic minorities, you still have children who are depending on you to guide their social and emotional development. That development means that they, as responsible citizens of this country, must understand that our increasingly segregated society fuels the perpetuation of the impact of racism that persists in our institutions and organizations. They need to be prepared to examine their own biases and their role in the larger society's responsibility to do all they can to eradicate this insidious legacy. Racial and economic justice may manifest itself in individual behavior, but they are supported systemically. And it is those systems, specifically our system of public education, that our work on institutional racism is about. So here we are, members of an organization, educators in a system that itself has not escaped the long, the complex, the interwoven effects of institutional racism. Here we are, citizens of a country that is still grappling with the sins of slavery and internment and reservations. But here we are, the NEA, challenging ourselves to try. I have no doubt that you, our accomplished education support professionals, will join us in this difficult but ethically necessary and professionally responsible journey. No question, conversations about race and institutional racism are difficult. Typically, we find ourselves attempting to navigate a waterfall of emotions: anger, fear, frustration, confusion. We are often left grappling with feelings of being misunderstood, or feeling very vulnerable, or sometimes judged. Achieving the goal of racial equity, of truly removing the fortified racial barriers our society has built over time, requires dedicated people like you, using effective tools and resources and individual and collective action to affect social change. But this is what we know. Racial justice in education is essential if we, the NEA, are to achieve our mission of fulfilling the promise of public education so that every single student, every single one, can be prepared to succeed in this global and interdependent world. So while MBIB passed unanimously, the question now is, where do we go from here? It is our belief that we must change the institutions that are driving inequity and unfair treatment in our public schools through awareness and education and activism. We see this first year as one of opening up the conversation with our leaders and with our members so that we can raise awareness about what has become almost invisible to some. Authentic conversations create understanding and growth and empathy. Most importantly, they are the first step in generating ideas and solutions for ending the unfairness that is denying opportunities to our children and their families and their communities who bear the brunt of the inequities embedded within our multiple systems. If we are truly serious about eradicating institutional racism, we all need to have a much deeper understanding of its present existence, that it is not history, but something that is very much alive and it's very real. We need to understand why it is important for us, for the NEA, to tackle as educators, if we are truly, truly committed to helping every one of our students reach their full potential as empowered learners and constructive members of their communities and productive participants in our economy and engaged citizens of the United States and the world. From awareness, we will turn our focus to education, to increase our knowledge and skills, and then finally, our awareness and our education will create that foundation that we need for action. So what is our goal? Our goal this afternoon is that we will learn from each other, all of us, that we will listen and we will do better. We hope that your awareness will be raised, that you will learn something new from yourself and your colleagues, that we will all leave here with a new or renewed sense of commitment and responsibility, that you will be both challenged to change and inspired to act. So, let's begin. Just how do we define institutional racism? Our working definition is the norms, policies, and practices that are structured into political and societal and economic institutions that have the net effect of imposing oppressive conditions and denying rights, opportunity, and equality based on race or ethnicity. So I want you to use this definition as a guide, and we're going to ask you to engage in a discussion with your colleagues. I want you to take just a moment first, though, and I want you to reflect on these questions. Why? Why is it important for NEA to address institutional racism, and why now? The second question I want you to reflect on is, if we are truly committed to education as an equal opportunity for all, what is our responsibility as education professionals? What is our responsibility in addressing this insidious reality? After a few minutes of self-reflection, then I'm going to ask you to begin talking with your table mates. I will also ask you to practice what we are calling our rules of engagement, particularly when we're having courageous conversations. So rule number one, we want you to engage in what we call active learning. Active learning is when you're actually listening. You're not thinking about what you're going to say. You're listening deeply to what someone else is saying, and you're thinking about how you can understand and learn from what they're saying to you. Number two, we're going to ask you to practice self and group monitoring. So if yourself is talking a lot, stop. If someone in your group is talking a lot, with love, tell them to stop. We want you to be gracious. It's not easy to open up, so you need to be gracious. We need you to stay engaged. Please do not disengage from the conversation. We want you to be open and we want you to be honest. And then this is really important. We need you to listen and suspend judgment based on what somebody's saying. It is their story and their reality, and you need to hear it and they need to say it. So, with that, I think we have the questions we're going to put up on the screen, although I know you were hanging on my every word and you remember everything I said. We're going to put the questions back up on the screen. And I wanted to actually be silent for a minute. I want you to look at the questions and I want you to think, reflect.